I guess I call it to order. You got to do the roll call.
Councilmember, Agency Director, Authority Member Christ.
Present.
Mann.
Present.
Marcus.
Here.
Vice Mayor, Vice Chairman Smith.
Here.
Mayor Chairman Paris.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. The invocation today is with Dr. Sundi Olasagba. Did I get that right? Help me out with that. Okay. And you're from Redeemed Christian Church of God, is that right? Thank you.
That's right, sir. Father, we thank you. We give you praise, we give you glory, we give you honor for who you are and for everything you've done for us as a people and as a city. We thank you for the government that you have established in our city and for the people that you have called forth to lead our city. Even as we begin this day, we rest our case and our hearts with you, that you will lead and direct every affairs of the city, and that your power and glory will rest upon our leaders and our city and nation in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Mr. Mann, you want to lead us in the flag salute?
Everybody would place their hand over their heart, face the flag, follow after me. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Kelvin, it might just be because I left my hearing aids at home, but could we get the mics a little louder? Thank you.
You know, that can be shown on camera, you know that. You just cut me off on camera.
Is Kelsey Hundoft here? Did I get the name right? Hundoft? Come on up. You got your speech ready? No. This is Kelsey Hundoff. She is from Lancaster High School. Kelsey is a senior, outside hitter for the Lancaster volleyball team, led the Eagles to a 25-4 record season, a share of the Golden League Championship, and a quarterfinal appearance in the CIF playoffs. Kelsey finished the season with a team high of 288 kills. Don't you love it? They call it kills. I mean, sorry. My daughters played volleyball, so did my sons, and I don't know, there was something about that. 26 digs, not nearly as cool as kills. 7 blocks, while voted Offensive Player of the Year by the team. She was named to the First Team All-Golden League and First Team All-Valley by the AV Press in 2009, 2010. She was named the All-Tournament Team at the Sylmar Tournament in both 2009 and 2010, the Most Valuable Player at the Flint Ridge Prep Camp 2007-2009. And here's the good part. She has a 4.0 academic average. And look, you know, normally people with this type of record in volleyball are like this standing next to me. You know, can you imagine the amount of practice that she had and the work you had to put in to be that competitive? I mean, it's incredible, and still get a 4.0. Your parents have to be incredibly proud of you. She's been in contact with Cal Poly, Caltech. Caltech? I've never met anybody who went to Caltech. You? Anybody? I mean, Caltech is the greatest school in the world. Cal State Los Angeles, University of Alaska Fairbanks. She plans to major in civil engineering. She volunteers at the Lancaster Library at the Flint Ridge Prep Volleyball Camp. For her outstanding accomplishments in athletics, academics, and in the community, I'd like to present Kelsey Hundoff with the Mayor's Athlete of the Month Award. And the good news, you get $1,000 on top of it. Okay. Oh, Caltech is probably, you know, the place you want to go. Is Manuel Jaramillo here? Now, Natalia practiced with me how to say your last name, and I know I messed it up. Okay. Whereas Manuel has rendered service to the community which deserves special recognition, and whereas Manuel has participated while participating in a softball game at Lancaster City Park on August 15th, 2010, when a player from the opposing team suddenly collapsed to the ground from a massive heart attack. And Manuel, who is CPR certified, immediately responded, began performing CPR, continuing doing so until medical help arrived. His selfless act, doctors say, is what kept this gentleman from passing away. Manuel is truly a community hero, and we appreciate your service. Got it? Come on, my Nana does it faster. Thank you so much. This is an example of why all of us should be trained. If he had not gotten that training, this guy would have been dead. And it's not just your fast action, it's the preparation beforehand that I think you really should be congratulated for. Thank you. Okay, the American Public Works Association High Desert Branch Project Awards for the Best Environmental Project and the Outstanding Public Works Employee of the Year. The City Manager and Public Works Director will be making these presentations.
Mayor Paris and City Council members, thank you. I'm going to introduce Robert in a moment, but I was fortunate enough to start my career in Lancaster in the Public Works Department, and I don't know that there's any department that could be better to start, because while every department does very important service to the city, Public Works is, I think, one of those departments that day to day is what the people see. And it's between health and safety, maintenance, et cetera. It's really a critical department for a city, and it doesn't always get the credit it deserves. I'm going to introduce Robert, and he's going to tell us about some credit that a program and an employee in our city got.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, what an honor to be here. First of all, it's a real privilege to be recognized by our peers, the American Public Works Association. This year, we were the only city in our chapter to win 2 awards, and I attribute that to the council's support of the programs that we do. The Best Environmental Project award is for our Utilities Division's work with restaurants and with the maintenance of the sewer system. Now, I know that doesn't sound very sexy, but it's a necessary job, and they have done a really outstanding job, particularly when you think that they've only been in existence for the last couple of years. They have just really poured their heart and soul into that. So we also won a second award for Outstanding Public Works Employee of the Year. And this actually happens to be the second year that we've won this award for one of our public works managers. I have to tell you that Ray Hunt has done an incredible job of leading the Capital Group. Ray, why don't you come over here and join us? Ray completed the Amargosa Creek project this year. His crews are finishing up the boulevard, and next year, through his work, we're going to see an Avenue I 14 interchange project that you won't believe. So please, on behalf of Ray and the Utilities Group, accept the APW awards. Thank you much. Thank you.
I got to tell you, the only people that I've met who don't just love the Boulevard project, they're a little wacko. But Every sane person I know thinks that place is just magnificent.
Thank you.
Thank you. You did a great job. The presenters for the Lancaster Photography Association slide presentation on the Prime Desert Woodland Preserve is David and Christine Wilkins. This is one of Lancaster's better-kept secrets.
Yes, it is. Mayor Paris and City Council members. My name is David Wilkins, and I'm the Vice President of the Lancaster Photography Association, known as the LPA. And with me tonight are the President, Sue Kraft, and Christine Wilkins, member, there's Sue over there, and member Christine Wilkins. The LPA has over 110 camera enthusiast members from all over the Antelope Valley. One of the main projects of the LPA every year is managing and staffing the photography exhibit at the AV Fair. A recent project of ours has been to create a DVD of photos taken at the Prime Desert Woodland Preserve. Christine Wilkins will explain how the LPA started the Prime Desert project and will follow with a brief presentation of some of the images in the DVD. Christine.
Good evening. I am a volunteer at the Prime Desert Woodland Preserve, as are several other members of the Lancaster Photography Association. Many nature centers have a slide or video presentation in their interpretive centers. The Woodland has only a very short DVD of the last snowfall. I thought that the LPA could produce a DVD showing some of the local splendors and seasonal changes of the preserve. The LPA board enthusiastically agreed. To encourage participation in photographic quality, the club had a contest for images of the Prime Desert over the time frame of April 2010 through October 2010. With these images, we produced a DVD of 144 photographs, which plays in approximately 12 minutes. The photographs are of the structures, animals, plants, and the vistas. Many of the plants and animals are identified with their common names on the picture. We will now play a short excerpt of the DVD.
That's a pretty one.
The Lancaster Photography Association and the contributing photographers would like to present to the City of Lancaster Parks and Recreation and Arts Department the gift of a DVD of pictures of the Prime Desert Woodland Preserve for the Nature Center.
Thank you very much. It is a secret. You know, I mean, people can use that facility. It's probably the most underutilized, beautiful place in Lancaster we have. And if you haven't been there, you owe it to yourself to go. Wouldn't you agree? Yeah. As you can see from those pictures, it's also a great place to take pictures. Okay. All speaker cards must be filled out and submitted prior to the agenda item being called, otherwise known as the PK Shaw rule. This same rule applies to you if you wish to speak on non-agendized items at the end of the meeting. Following this process will allow you to conduct a timely and orderly meeting. Thank you. On the agency action, there is nothing required at this time, so we'll move on to the rest of the agenda. Do we have a motion on the minutes?
Also move that we pass the minutes.
I'll second that.
Let's vote. And it's unanimous with Kinman abstaining. Moving on to the consent calendar, anything needed to be removed?
No, sir. I'll move that we pass the consent calendar as currently comprised.
I'll second that.
Let's vote. Unanimous. I want to move the agenda around, and let's go directly to the closed session. That's only going to take us a few minutes, and we'll be back. So take a stretch break. We'll be right back without dissent, right? Right.
Well, I need to report on the closed session.
You need to report on that, and then we're going to deal with the Palmdale litigation?
Right.
Okay, and we're going to bring that out of closed session and talk about it publicly.
Okay, the council did meet in closed session under Government Code Section 54956.9A with respect to the second item listed on the agenda, the Antelope Valley Allied Arts Association versus Lancaster, and gave direction to attorneys concerning handling of that case. Then we also met in closed session under Government Code Section 54956.9A concerning the Palmdale versus Lancaster case. Heard a report from attorneys concerning that case, and at that point, council decided to continue the discussions in open session.
So why don't you report to us on the Palmdale litigation?
The Palmdale litigation is a case that I'm sure everybody is familiar with. It was brought by Palmdale against the City of Lancaster and the Lancaster Redevelopment Agency in connection with the opening of the Antelope Valley Chevrolet dealership in the Lancaster Auto Mall. And it involved allegations that that dealership was a relocation, which would have been prohibited, if it were a relocation of the dealership, would be prohibited by state law. We would be prohibited by state law from assisting that dealership to relocate from the Palmdale Auto Mall. But in our opinion, that was not a relocation, but rather it was a new dealership. That the old dealership that was owned by the Malleys, they lost the franchise for the Chevrolet dealership. Lou Gonzalez was in fact a dealer in Palmdale, but he was the Saturn dealer. He was not the Chevrolet dealer. And so he has now been awarded a new franchise, which he has chosen to locate within the Lancaster Auto Mall. And in my opinion, that is not the assistance in a relocation of a dealership. The court last November entered a preliminary injunction against providing any assistance until they could have the matter heard. We are now in the pleading stages of that. The dealership is now open, and so at this point it seems a little after the fact to be litigating about what we can assist and not assist, when in fact we're pretty much in agreement that we don't need to assist them to relocate at this point in time. They're already there. So it seems like a substantial waste of public funds to be fighting over something that has no consequences in the long run. And I think notwithstanding the settlement proposals, I think we need to hear from the council as to their thoughts on
They're not seeking any money, right?
No.
I mean, so if they were, say we went to a trial and they won everything, they wouldn't get any money.
That's correct. All they would get is a judgment saying we cannot assist the dealership.
And the dealership would still be in Lancaster.
Yes.
Would be still selling Chevy cars.
Yes.
And I thought they wanted to amend the complaint.
The only reason to amend the complaint was to add an allegation concerning the Second Amendment to the Haas dealership, which has nothing to do with the Chevrolet dealership. It only coincidentally there was a promissory note that was being paid with credit based on sales tax generation by the Toyota dealership. That promissory note was secured by the real property, which was subsequently leased by Jim Haas to the Chevrolet dealership. But the sales tax that was being generated to pay that note was coming from the Toyota dealership. And so to clean that up, because there have been some relocations, the Toyota dealership used to be in the building where the Chevrolet dealership is now, and then it moved to its new building. And so it was simply a cleanup amendment to move that note to the source of the sales tax that is paying it. So it really has absolutely nothing to do with the Chevrolet dealership. It's not a new note, it's an existing note. But they somehow think that they want to amend the complaint to add that as a either allegations or a separate cause of action based on that note.
But they're still not seeking any money.
They're still not seeking any money.
And they're still not seeking a return of the Chevy dealership to
There's no basis for that.
So do we have an estimate of how much in legal fees have been spent by all the parties to date?
Oh, I'd say well north of $100,000 combined, maybe even $200,000.
So $200,000 to do what?
I can't identify any what. Sounds like I'm from the Who.
Okay. So there's an offer. Now they want to settle. Is that
Yes.
correct? Let's tell the folks about this settlement offer.
The settlement would involve some kind of an agreement with sanctions, which would provide that the city and agency of Lancaster would not provide any direct or indirect assistance to either the Chevrolet dealership or the Chevrolet dealership's landlord, Jim Haas. And that agreement would be in effect for a one-year period.
What is that?
It doesn't really do anything, though it raises a constant question of what constitutes assistance, direct or indirect. There are times when we do things to assist, like our sales tax or the registration fees that we were giving gift cards out for, the shop and drive program that we implemented last year. Something like that might be brought into question. We're going to have a constant battle.
What this really is the mayor of Palmdale wants to be able to declare victory and have some justification for having wasted $200,000 of everyone's money to bring a case that meant absolutely nothing. Isn't that really what's going on? And so we're in a position we continue to spend legal fees, or we can let him have his Pyrrhic victory, right?
That's correct.
The problem I have with it is I thought we had a not in our town bullying ordinance. And that's all this is. It's the same thing he did to the college, where they wasted hundreds of thousands of dollars of legal fees so that the college couldn't have a PK Shaw rule on the speaker cards. I mean, seriously, folks, hundreds of thousands of dollars. We have the same thing with the water board in Palmdale, where there's these Pyrrhic victories, where they mean nothing, but he gets to announce that this is why millions of dollars of taxpayers' money, because it's now accumulated to the millions of dollars mark, somehow accomplish something. I'm reluctant to be bullied. I mean, I don't know what you folks want to do. Certainly, I mean, I understand frivolous lawsuits. I mean, you know, there is such a thing, and that's exactly what this is. But it's your money that he's wasting. That, you know, the reason why there really aren't very many frivolous lawsuits is because people have to spend money to do them. You know, it costs a lot of money to do litigation, and there just aren't very many of them, except when you're paying taxpayers, using taxpayers' money, when you're using other people's money, and that's what's going on here, and it's absurd. I mean, if somebody could tell me why you're filing a lawsuit, what you hope to get back, is there something that you're going to get that's going to benefit your group? That makes sense to me, but I can't see it. You can't see it. Nobody's been able to explain it to me. You know, maybe we'll have to get rid of our P.K. Shaw rule, but I don't think so.
Mr. Mayor, I was going to bring this up during the council reports, but maybe it'll answer some questions. I think that the city of Palmdale has declared war on the city of Lancaster. I asked the city manager if he would, they have a video of a city council meeting. Do you have that video available? Could you play it for us? Someone could? Thank you.
Okay.
We had an ABTA meeting that was very uneventful.
Liar, liar, cats on fire.
I still think that we here in America need due process, and that hasn't actually happened over there yet. I am praying for it to happen, because I don't think anybody should actually be accused and convicted without evidence.
Yes, right. Yep.
So anyway, hopefully the mayor and I can, stand up to the challenge. We have been there for many years. We have seen that agency when it was in very bad shape. I can tell you right now, it is in very good shape right now, in spite of all that you are hearing. ABTA is very well off. Financially, its buses are operating as they should, and I think that we had a lot to do with that over the years.
I would agree. I'm going to follow up on his comments. The same with the ABTA, you're reading about it in the paper, but it's unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it in 20 years, and I am convinced my mayor to the north is completely delusional, because his world is a different world than anything I've ever seen or heard of. Yet he's convinced he's correct. That makes him very dangerous, in my opinion, as far as due process and what we as Americans stand for. What I witnessed at ABTA was nothing you would find in America. Something you'd find in a third world country where they drag people out of their homes, try them, and convict them on the spot. That's what happened. Embarrassing. It's embarrassing to be a part of that, but yet it's happening. And I think as an Antelope Valley, we should be taking note here, ladies and gentlemen, because the end game will be a full investigation. It's going to tell us everything we need to know. So there's no need to rush to judgment or rush to convict. And I just got to tell you that this is a dangerous turn of events, in my opinion. And I hope it doesn't extend to anything else, because this one area, this ABTA, this is not a good thing that's going on right now. So we did get a commitment from the board to go for a 6-year investigation. We're going to go back 6 years in time. So, ladies and gentlemen, there is going to be nothing to hide. So I'm just asking for some patience. And my colleague here, Mike, I don't think we'd ever seen anything like that before. I have a feeling we're going to see more of it. So it's not a good turn of events. We also had an air district Air Quality Management District meeting.
that it?
Mike and I both serve on that board.
I'll miss that.
Well, I guess you could say the vision I have for Lancaster is delusional. I think the folks like the vision I have for Lancaster. Certainly, thank you. Certainly they thought it was delusional when we talked about Lancaster Boulevard, and it turned out to be visionary. I'm less concerned about his shots at me, but more concerned about we're tied with this guy. You know, he is part of the AVTA board. There isn't any question that AVTA, the administration, was stealing the money. There just isn't. You know, we saw the documents. We've seen the papers. We've seen the evidence. And nobody got drug out of their home. As soon as he was confronted with the evidence that we caught him stealing, they all resigned. I mean, what does that tell you? Nobody made them resign. Nobody asked them to resign. The three of them simply resigned. At 1 o'clock in the morning, one of them resigned, as we caught her in the office at 1 o'clock in the morning. There doesn't seem to be any question that they were paying themselves. And the mayor of Palmdale and his city councilman, they know this. And the fact that they think it's okay is troubling to me. The fact that they think that it's somehow a violation of people's due process to confront them with the facts is troubling to me, because it is our money that is being stolen, meaning the taxpayers of Lancaster. And I don't know what to do about it. You know, certainly it would benefit everybody in the Antelope Valley if we all got along, but I don't know how to get along when people support other people stealing money. And it wasn't the mayor of Palmdale that asked for a 6-year investigation. It was Marvin and I that asked for the 6-year investigation, and they were opposed to it, for heaven's sakes. They didn't want that to happen.
Actually, they weren't even there when we required the investigation to take place to hire the investigator. We hired Deborah Riley when the city of Palmdale boycotted their responsibility to be at the AVTA meeting. So when they're making all these accusations, I would first tell them, before they make the accusations, they need to show up.
The problem we find ourselves in now, however, is this personality issue. They take the public purse and file these lawsuits that nobody can explain to me how there is a benefit for them in it. And if somebody could, you know, perhaps we're all delusional. Perhaps there is a benefit that only they can see. But I can't see it, and none of our lawyers can see it. So what do you guys want to do about it?
Well, I have a couple of questions for Dave. Dave, is Palmdale's position now that they want to take on both car dealerships, Jim Haas and also Lou Gonzalez, as defendants?
There was discussion at the status conference on Monday by the judge, who indicated that both Jim Haas and Lou Gonzalez, who have been heavily involved in the litigation, are only real parties in interest, and that they don't have any real standing to object to anything or to even comment on the status of the case. That they're certainly involved in it, but they're not party defendants, and that could be cured if they were added as party defendants. And there was a strong recommendation that we stipulate to an amendment of the complaint. However,
amending it to
add them as party defendant, and I guess there was some discussion about adding them. When you do a complaint, you name certain named defendants, but you always add a number of does. And so the thought was that they would add them as does 1 and 2 with their specific names. So they'd amend the complaint to do that. By doing that, though, there are no causes of action that seek relief
That was my next question.
from them.
What's the
And
relief
so
from the dealerships?
that whole amendment would be subject to demur on the grounds that there's no cause of action stated against the defendant. But it's going to cost them money to go there.
Hasn't it cost the Toyota dealership around $60,000 so far? They're not even gonna
I've
defend
heard
it?
that number bandied about. I don't know precisely how much, but that's the number that it's been indicated.
I mean, to me, Mr. Mayor, I mean, we all know that the court system is here for citizens to seek relief against things that, wrongs that have done them, and for, people to decide these arguments. But this, I mean, not only seems like it's frivolous since they're not going to gain anything, but also seems malicious against two businesses that service this valley but service Lancaster. And, this kind of, what's that?
They also both employ residents equal in Palmdale and Lancaster.
I mean, I could see if there was some outcome that was going to be a remedy that was going to be given them, that they were going to get something out of this. I could see, okay, well, that's why you're going to, but it just seems like it's frivolous. And I have a solution to it. If they want a settlement, the settlement is drop the lawsuit.
Yeah, that'd be a start.
Yeah, it would save taxpayers money on both cities in this valley, and it would save two dealerships in an economic downturn that's a hardship on these businesses anyway, and save them money too. It just seems that they're just going in the wrong direction.
If we had that $200,000 in our anti-bullying program, every school in this valley would be safe, and more importantly, the kids in it would feel safe. I mean, it's easy to just pass around numbers, but as I sit in this seat longer and longer, I realize what those numbers represent. I mean, it's huge significance when you start talking hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars. While I'm on it, I do appreciate the city of Palmdale sending me a Christmas card.
It's from your friends.
It's a nice custom Christmas card with a beautiful picture, and it does say from your friends at the city of Palmdale. And I just want to make absolutely certain. I mean, again, this is thousands of dollars.
Was it addressed to the delusional mayor?
Well, I thought the mayor was delusional when he opened it up and saw it. I want to make certain we're not doing this.
We are absolutely not doing that, nor would we.
All right. And I'll thank them for their card, but maybe next time they could spend the money more wisely.
So, Mr. Mayor, do we call for some action then that needs to be taken tonight? Sounds like to me we need to.
I think we treat it like we treat every other bully out there. You punch them in the nose. And that's what I want to do. I want to fight. You guys decide, but I do not want this guy filing these lawsuits every time he wants to, declare victory.
I have a question. Dave, how did Mr. Gonzalez get the dealership?
There was an open competition among various General Motors dealers, particularly because they were closing the Saturn line completely. And so they actually had taken away all of Malley's franchises. And then they decided that they would
That is Rally
Rally Chevrolet, or Rally whatever Motors.
Rally Auto Group.
Yeah. They went out to an open competition to see who would take the Chevrolet dealership, and they concluded based on that given the quality of sales and service and the reputation of the Saturn dealership run by Lou Gonzalez, that he should be awarded that franchise. There was subsequently a mediation that took place under a federal law, and the mediator gave back two of the three franchises, but not the Chevrolet franchise, and concluded that General Motors had properly awarded that franchise to Lou Gonzalez. And to become effective as of, I think it was November 1 of this year. And then Mr. Gonzalez attempted to negotiate some transactions, some additional land acquisition with Palmdale. They refused. They basically kept proposing
Didn't they, in fact,
alternatives.
refuse to even meet with Mr. Gonzalez?
Yeah, well, I don't know. Staff members continued to meet. I don't know that Mr. Ledford would meet with him, even though he was requested to by Mr. Gonzalez. But what happened there, I don't know all the details of it, but it's in the depositions in the mediation case. The end result of that is that Mr. Gonzalez could not get a site upon which he could, in good conscience, invest his money in the Palmdale Auto Mall, and that's when he began the conversation with Lancaster staff about opening the new AV Chevrolet dealership in the Lancaster Auto Mall.
Did we have anything to do with General Motors making the decision?
No.
Okay.
No, we didn't have any discussions with General Motors until after Mr. Gonzalez came to us about locating that dealership in the Lancaster Auto Mall, and it was only at that time that we started discussions with General Motors, and it was only after that point in time that they actually came out and looked at the Lancaster Auto Mall to see if it was going to be acceptable to them, and they obviously liked what they saw and have approved it.
I think we need to protect our businesses. I think we need to protect who we are in the city of Lancaster, and I don't think we should be bullied either. Do you want a motion?
We should be what? I'm sorry, Mr.
That we should not be bullied.
And I, obviously I agree with that. And at the same time, though, I want us to be very clear what's going on. There's this waste. It's just waste. And the only people getting a benefit are the lawyers. And they're all highly paid lawyers on both sides. It also makes it unprofitable to do business in either city when that happens. The last thing people want to see is their profits being given to lawyers. Especially, like, what did Jim Haas have to do with this? He sold his old dealer, his property. He
actually leased it.
Huh?
He leased it.
Leased it. He had nothing to do with this. It's simply punitive. So the motion is to fight?
I say let's fight.
Can we?
I'll second that motion.
Can I get a clarification of this motion? Well, I understand don't be bullied. In terms of actual litigation strategy,
I would say the motion would be to decline the settlement offer.
But we would accept their dismissal of the case.
Yes, with a waiver of costs.
Okay.
The direction would be that we would continue, we would not accept the settlement, but we would request them to drop the case.
Correct. I think they should pay Jim Haas's attorney fees, too.
All they're asking for is they just want us to reiterate what the law is anyway, right? It's a nonsense settlement.
Right.
They're not asking for anything in addition to what they already have. Is that correct?
Well, they're asking for restrictions that would be in place for a year.
But I thought the law already provided that.
That's more than what they have. The injunction is there. If the injunction gets extended for that time, then it would be that. Certainly, if you conclude that the opening of the AV Chevrolet was a relocation of a Chevrolet dealership, then the law is pretty clear that the agency and city cannot provide directly or indirectly any assistance to that relocation. But if you conclude that it's a new dealership and not a relocation, then there's nothing in the law that would preclude us from providing assistance at any point in time.
Is there a time limitation?
Well, the relocation thing is 1 year.
1 year.
But it's not a relocation, so there is no.
Let's assume it was. So at the conclusion of 1 year, we're no longer bound by anything.
Under that law, that's right.
Okay. Let's vote. Any other discussion? Let's vote. It's unanimous. Okay, back to the regular agenda. PH1. Barbara Boswell is the presenter for that.
There's no speaker's cards on that one.
You want to waive the report then?
Yeah, we could waive the report and have discussion, and I think there's some comments.
Okay. Anyone? Oh, you sit down, Barbara. You're off the hook.
I think this is the state again, putting, an onus on us once again to put fees or to raise things, and we're just sort of stuck as usual, like when they took our $17.5 million. So I think we'll have to vote for it, but reluctantly, in protest.
In protest.
I'd still like to send them an IOU, but.
But we are rounding down instead of rounding up, so we're...
No, that's very, very important, too.
But while we're talking about parking, and since downtown is so congested now, you ever think downtown would be congested? Wow. Is there some way, perhaps we should be looking at parking meters, but residents of Lancaster have a sticker, and they don't have to pay for parking?
One of the things you approved recently was a grant that's going to look at parking throughout the downtown area and traffic management. I don't know where we are on that. I know that we've gotten the money.
Can we do that, make free parking for residents of Lancaster?
We could certainly do that. I think that's a conversation we should clearly have with the businesses as well, too, to get their input on that.
But let's not do that. Let's not do that, Rex.
I just want to talk about it.
I'd love to show the citizens of Palmdale what good leadership can do with their money rather than sue people.
There's actually a method to my madness in this. I guess I shouldn't say that, should I? In light of the recent allegations.
It's a delusional kind of go together.
I'm liking the way people are starting to feel good about being part of Lancaster. And I would like the stickers on people's cars, kind of proclaiming that, where we have more and more of a group identity, because we're doing something in this city no one else is doing. And you're doing it with the solar power, which we're going to hear a little bit more about. We're going to be leading the nation with the beautiful earth when that takes off. And I'm just trying to think of ways that we can develop that identity a little bit better. I've never been more proud of living in this city, and I'm hearing that from more and more people. And maybe this is a way to get the message out.
We could talk to the businesses. I think they're parking, having had some experience in it, and parking meters are people have a very visceral reaction on both sides of it. So we can certainly talk to the businesses.
It's not something I'm married to. I am married to the idea, though, of us developing that identity more. I also think it ought to be much easier for people to buy different types of apparel with city logos on it. And if we could actually sell that through local businesses so they get the profit even better. Okay, good.
Mayor Paris, what about, you're talking about branding, the city brand being out there, and
yes.
What about a decal, the clear ones that can have the city logo on it, or, something as such?
One of the projects one of the many revenue projects we've worked on, and that's probably not going to be much of a revenue project, is to make it much easier, as the mayor said and Councilwoman, to buy city apparel, city logos, et cetera. It's an ancillary duty for some staffs that may not be going quite as fast as we'd like, but the first foray was into branding. People have the opportunity to sponsor trees and banners on the boulevard, and the next is just what you said, Mayor, is to get a local business to carry the merchandise and then split the profits with them. That would also include ancillary items like decals and such.
Well, I just thought about some of the states. I know California probably has it too, but Florida has where you can take the design of your license plate and change it and make it just about anything you want. But the decals could, be the city logo, or probably you'd prefer the musical road, or even a Joshua tree, or, something such as that.
I think
Change it.
we hear.
We could even let people in Palmdale put the decal on their car, and they would have free parking in Lancaster, right?
Yeah. we do hear you, and you have my word. That is something staff's actively working on, and I just don't have a date on which we would unveil it, but I would certainly think it's within the next 90 days.
Okay, thank you. Okay, is there a motion?
I move that we adopt resolution number 10-74.
I'll second that.
Is there a second?
Second.
Boy, the votes were slow on this one, weren't they? Okay, it's unanimous. Moving on to public hearing item number 2.
There's no speaker's cards on that one either.
So we do not get to hear the dulcet tones of Brian Luedeke this evening.
We could have Randy Williams come back.
Is there any discussion? Okay, is there a motion?
I'll move that we introduce ordinance number 956.
I'll second.
Okay, let's vote. It's unanimous. Okay, public hearing item number 3, a general plan amendment. Any speaker cards?
Yes. This one.
Okay, so we will hear from, we do get to hear from Brian Luedeke. Dulcet, remember, dulcet.
I'll remember that word. Mayor Paris, members of the City Council, the item that is before you on this case is a general plan amendment and a zone change affecting 180 acres generally located on the south side of Avenue H between 80th Street West and 90th Street West. The reason that this general plan amendment and zone change is in front of you is that the Beautiful Earth Group, a solar energy company, acquired this land with the intent of placing a photovoltaic solar energy generating facility on it. Under the city's zoning code, these can be placed only within rural residential zones with a conditional use permit. The current zoning designation and general plan designation on this property is urban residential and a zoning of both R7000 and commercial plan development on a small portion. This particular site at one time was approved with a map for approximately 650 single-family lots. The acquisition of this site by this company, of course, would result in this project not being built, and instead the installation of two 19-megawatt solar energy power plants, a total, therefore, of approximately 38 megawatts of power that could be generated. This case was heard by the Planning Commission in its November meeting. At that time, they recommended approval to you of both the general plan amendment and the zone change that would redesignate the site to non-urban and the zoning to RR 2.5. They also approved the conditional use permit that actually allows the development of the site for the solar energy plant. At that time, we received word that there was support of this project from the Antelope Acres Town Council, as well as several other organizations within the Antelope Valley area. We think that this is an appropriate use of the site. We certainly feel that it is a much better use of the site than placing an urban designation and development out in this area that would create additional demands for traffic improvements, schools, and other items. Instead, it furthers the city's goals of becoming alternative energy capital. It allows for the development of a useful project on a site that at one time didn't look like it might be used in any effective manner. And we believe that it is certainly something that is in line with the city's general plan and our long-term goals for the future. Therefore, in accordance with what the Planning Commission has done, we endorse the general plan amendment and zone change and would ask for the council's support of that.
Thank you. Any questions? And we have Mel Lane from Gavia. Greater Antelope Valley Economic Alliance.
Greater Antelope Valley Economic Alliance.
Much more powerful than Gavia.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's a privilege to be here and members of the council to represent a project that is accomplishing something that all of us have worked so hard to bring to the area. My name is Mel Lane. I'm the president of the Greater Antelope Valley Economic Alliance. It is a organization that's composed of private and public members. The city is a member of that organization. We're a regional economic development area organization that's charged with trying to attract businesses to the area, grow those businesses, and to maintain the ones that are here. Our primary emphasis has been locating and bringing to this area businesses that we feel would be fit into our cluster. And of course, one of those is renewable energy. And in that process, we put together a website, marketing materials, and worked with your economic development people here in the city, together with the other cities, to attract 150 developers back about 2 years ago now. And those 150 developers have continually coming to the Antelope Valley to look at what they can do. Beautiful Earth is one of those developers that I think all other businesses that are coming to the Antelope Valley could aspire to. They are an organization that's committed to putting money into the community, to try to work with community organizations to bring about the best use for a project which we believe is in the best interest of the community here. We also think that it's the highest and best use for the property right now. It's going from housing, or from farming, which was large use of water, to housing, which was less, but now to solar, which is even less than that. So it will help conserve water, but make use of the property and help us to become an organization that, or an area that's noted for the renewable energies. Also, the jobs that will come. Most of the jobs that we've lost, I do a lot of statistics and everything, have come from the construction industry. And so this is going to provide, hopefully, a bridge of these projects being built here in the Antelope Valley so that we can provide more jobs, and that by the time maybe that reaches a maturity, the housing market will recover and we can go on from there. Therefore, we support the project.
Thank you. Any comments? You know, this is not just a solar field. This is something that is totally unique in that it's designed to, it's called Beautiful Earth, and it's designed to actually put manufacturing facilities with it so that you can have a carbon-free manufacturing. You can actually have a product that was produced without any expenditure of carbon pollutions at all. It'll be, I think, the first in the nation that does this. This is an exciting project for lots of reasons. So is there a motion?
I'll move that we adopt resolution number 1075 and introduce ordinance number 957.
I'll second.
Oh, I got to close the public hearing, don't I? Okay. Public hearing is hereby closed. Okay. And there's a second. Let's vote. And it's unanimous. So when do we see the Beautiful Earth stamp on products? Okay. Okay, moving on to new business item 1.
There's no speakers' cards.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I'd like to make a comment first.
Yes. So we'll close the public hearing and go ahead.
Can I address also?
All right, come on. I want to hear from somebody else. So
My name
you got to
is
do a
Kenya
speaker
Jen-
card, though.
Okay, yes.
She can do it.
Oh, she's got one? Okay, do it afterwards? Okay.
Okay. My name is Kenya Jen. I'm a resident of Palmdale, certainly.
That's okay.
On a sticker?
Well, I do advertising on my car, but, you know, it's kind of loaded. So, I just want to bring to aware of mental health. I'm going through a custody case. I would like to address.
Okay, no, wait a minute. No, I saw your speaker card for that. That's something else. This is just new business item 1, which is the fire sprinklers in the houses. So if you go ahead and have a seat, and you can come back up for that. I'll tell you when. Okay.
Okay.
And,
cool.
Unless you have something to talk about on the fire sprinklers.
No. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
You know, once again, this is the state putting an onus on businesses. You know, like we were talking today about the cost of putting sprinklers in, and the mayor can speak to whether or not this is really effective or not. But this is anywhere from $2,000 to $6,000 per home being built, and there's not really any valid proof that this is going to be effective. And this is just, once again, our state legislature putting an onus on businesses, and that's why everybody wants to move to Nevada or move to Arizona and do business. But I know the mayor has some more information on that, but we're stuck between a rock and a hard place again, because we have to adopt the state regulations so that people can build.
When I was a little boy and I was still going to school, there was a thing called new math. Do you guys remember new math? And everybody was convinced that if they started teaching us new math in school, we wouldn't know how to add and subtract. Guess what? They were right. And I know they were right, because this is an example of that. If you look at the statistical breakdown of injuries and fires, if there's operating smoke detectors and properly placed in the residence, it's almost unheard of to have a life-threatening injury. You know, you get out in time if that parameter is met. But, you know, so what do the sprinklers prevent? They prevent property damage, although they cause property damage. So, you know, you have to do the addition and the subtraction there. But then you have to do the cost, $6,000, $2,000 to $6,000 a house. And from that, you have to just subtract the amount of property damage that is saved if there's a fire. It doesn't balance out. This is just another example of us not being able to do basic arithmetic. And we see it constantly. Sure, it sounds good. Sure, it sounds like we should have them there. But it's not when you do the math. And unfortunately, you know, once again, we don't have a lot of choice, except I'm not going to vote for it.
Mayor Paris, in reading about this, investigating, and badgering some people about it, basically the majority of the citizens of the state of California just voted for more nanny state, as far as I'm concerned.
For more what?
Nanny state laws. More. Yeah, you've never heard of the nanny state laws?
I never heard of the nanny state laws.
I'll send you some links.
Nanny laws.
But,
I
you
thought
know,
a nanny was something rich people had.
Well, we can't take care of ourselves, so we need the government to, nanny over us. But what happened is that this council opposed AB 32 by issuing a resolution. And November 2nd, the majority of the citizens of the state of California voted, and we lost Prop 23. So I asked Mr. Bozigan, is this that we just now have to suck it up and we're supposed to vote for this? And he said basically because it has to be within our codes, and we have to represent the citizens of Lancaster and protect them, basically, is what I understand. And I said, well, can we just whine about it? And he said, yes, you can do all the whining you want. So I'm whining and I'm resenting this just as much as I resented the state of California coming and robbing us of $17 million worth of redevelopment monies because the state of California spends like a drunken sailor and we get stuck with the bill over and over again, is basically how I see it. And I'm very tempted not to vote.
I think you're being unduly harsh to drunken sailors.
Well, actually, my dad was one, so I can say that.
Okay, is there a motion?
Well, one question to the city attorney first, if I could. What would happen if we didn't pass and adopted the standards, the green energy standards?
Somebody call you delusional.
Yeah, are you delusional? We're still going to have to comply with building codes. And so it's going to bring into question our permitting process and our ability to enforce those matters. It's something that is mandated that we adopt. These rules were adopted and considered after some public hearings before a commission that adopts all of the state building standards. State Building Standards Commission, I believe, is the one that adopts these things.
This was approved after the people who make the sprinklers went and lobbied them to vote
absolutely.
for it. I mean,
I
let's be
think
clear
largely
about what
because
this
of
is.
the state fire marshal's input into the process. So, bottom line is that it's going to wreak some havoc if we don't comply with the building codes. We have always had the Uniform Building Code applicable to our developments, and if we don't, and we don't make the findings, then we're susceptible to challenge on our requirements.
Okay. And then the businesses that are trying to sell the homes could have problems getting financing and all that. Yeah, so I mean, right.
Something is structured, not
All
built.
right, I'll be for it.
My position is that, yeah, here's the thing with this green stuff and with all these propositions and everything. I mean, it can even be fine and dandy to do it. But when Arizona and Nevada and other states don't do it, businesses just go, okay, I've had enough with California, and they leave. It would be like, you know, the city of Lancaster adopting very onerous things for businesses. They'd go to Palmdale. They go to Santa Clarita. And I think if we don't adopt it, it's going to put a bigger onus on our developers. So I'll make the motion that we adopt resolution number 1076 and introduce ordinance number 958.
I'll second that with protest.
Okay. With protest.
Let's vote. Ooh, this hurts.
Now we have to sign up in the lobby.
You dogs.
Well, you're the one that said you were going to vote for it.
3-2. Who did? Sherry and Marvin voted no.
So you're for sprinklers?
What?
He said, are you for sprinklers now?
I said, so you're for it.
I just think people need to learn math. Okay, let's go to new business item number 2. Barbara Boswell, we do have a speaker call.
Good evening, Mayor Paris and council members. This item before you is introducing ordinance number 959, which amends the Lancaster Municipal Code to allow us to sell permits so that certain types of businesses can park on streets during street sweeping times and not be in violation or possibly receive tickets. The types of businesses that would be eligible are those that are similar to contractors, florists delivering flowers, catering, janitorial, housekeeping. There's just certain businesses who are transient and move from place to place, and this would allow them to park in front of the place where they're going to be transacting their business and not be subject to the street sweeping parking restriction. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions? Thank you. Let's close the public hearing. No, I got to do the speaker cards first, right? Okay. She did put it in red, not a public hearing. Okay. Sorry. I was too busy in my math classes to learn how to read. And Andrew Nito.
I only had questions. She answered all of them.
Okay, good. Thank you. So, is there a motion?
I'll move that we introduce ordinance number 959.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Let's vote. It's unanimous. Okay. Moving on to the council agenda, CA item number 1. And I have to recuse myself on this because I'm representing one of the families who lost a son in the train crash that this is about. So I'm going to leave the room and turn it over to the Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Let the record reflect that the mayor's left the room. I brought this forward. This is co-authored by Congressman Buck McKeon also. These types of caps on liability, it's not an easy answer for it. The idea of certain caps have been to sort of keep down runaway litigation. But on the other hand, I know, like in the case of medical malpractice in California, the cap has been set at $250,000. So if you die, that's the maximum your family's going to be able to get. So if you lose a leg or a foot because of it, well, they sort of prorate and say, well, you're not dead, so maybe it's only worth $50,000. And so sometimes the cap, there's such an egregious action that has been taken, and it says in here in the in HR 6150, it states for gross negligence and willful misconduct that the rate is raised from $200 million to $500 million. I mean, in the case of maybe a major train wreck or other instances, maybe that money doesn't cover it. And so the idea is that the executive branch of government is coming in and controlling the judiciary branch. And we have jury system for that, and the jurors are the ones that are citizens, are the ones that are going to actually decide what the final outcome is going to be and what's going to be paid. And so in this case, I personally support Congressman McKeon in his efforts. And so I know it's not an easy answer, and there's valid points on both sides, but I thought I brought it forward and see if we can have a resolution to support Congressman McKeon and Elton Gallagly. It is a bipartisan bill, I know. I think isn't Sanchez that Congresswoman Sanchez that has signed on to it also. So it's up for discussion or any motions.
Well, I know I have some concerns with it, and I wonder what kind of Pandora's box does it open up to. But at the same time, I did a little bit of research and a little bit of reading, and one person in particular in that accident that Mayor Paris even mentioned was that every bone in their back had been broken, and there isn't enough money to help them with all the medical expenses that they're going to have for a lifetime for the one gentleman. So I'm not real crazy about it, but I see the need maybe for it if there is, like Councilman or Vice Mayor Smith said about gross negligence or willful misconduct. And unfortunately, I think I'm going to support it.
You know, and the idea is also, I mean, do we hold businesses accountable for their willful misconduct and gross negligence in America? And that's the key there. I mean, I'm all for government staying out of things and saying, you know, wait a minute, you have to, you have to back off. But sometimes we've gone through our nation before where, businesses were not taking care of business, and sometimes the only remedy is for government to step in and do something, or maybe not do something and let the courts take care of it. So I think in this case it is. Is there any other discussion, or do I hear a motion? I mean, I'll move that we consider and support, that we adopt the resolution that supports 6150.
I'll second that.
I'll call for a vote. It's unanimous with Mayor Paris recusing himself. Councilman Mann, could you retrieve the mayor? Let the record reflect that the mayor's entered the room, and I've returned the chair to him.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Let's move on to council reports, CR 1.
Okay, that's the Air Quality Management District that we met on November 16th. The board met on November 16th. The board conducted a public hearing to consider the amendment of Rule 219, and that's equipment not requiring a permit. Public hearing was continued until January 18th, 2011. The air quality management staff also provided the board on a legislative and regulatory update on aspects of the Federal Clean Air Act, CAA, and that was routine. Thank you.
Thank you. Lyle Talbot had some comments he wanted to make.
Well, you've already heard my name, but I'd like to know what's going on with the Palmdale so-called hybrid power project. I've been told by someone on city staff that the mayor is in discussion with someone, and that's all I could find out.
Which mayor? He doesn't call me, believe me.
I'm speaking about you, sir.
Oh.
Are you negotiating with someone? Is that...
No, that's not correct.
Okay, thank you.
It's not correct.
And my concern is for the city's citizens of this city and the health aspects of having two giant gas-powered turbines blowing their exhaust into northeast Lancaster. I brought this subject up last January or February before this council and kind of got you stirred up, but nothing's happened.
Well,
I'm out of the loop.
No news is good news. Yeah. My understanding is, but it's I don't know. I'm going to give you more time.
Yes, I just wanted to save my time.
Sure, but you asked a question.
I'd like to hear from you, though, after I stop speaking.
Okay.
Okay, after hearing from the bully pulpit up here.
Oh, that was clever.
And I saw an article where you endorsed the children at the school in their anti-bullying campaign. And I've written a letter to the Antelope Valley Press, which may not ever see ink, asking if you have the same policy for the 24-hour fitness gym.
Oh, that is so cute.
It's not cute to the gentleman you insulted by attacking him. And all he asked.
Were you there?
And all he asked for, sir, is an apology in public.
Were you there? You weren't there, were you?
Did I ever say I was?
Okay, thank you, Lyle.
So I'm asking for a report from our air quality person. What's going on with the Palmdale House?
Well, Mayor Paris did say that no news is good news, and usually that is. And with the frivolous lawsuits that Palmdale continues to pursue, maybe they just don't have the money to
Why don't we
forward with this.
pursue a suit against them for the possibility of endangering our citizens' health? Thank you.
Mr. Talbot, I did ask some questions about the Palmdale power plant and recently was told that it wasn't looking good.
By who?
It wasn't looking good for Palmdale.
Who told you that?
Wait a minute.
I'm not going to say.
Wait a minute.
There you go.
If you want to have a meeting with the councilwoman, you can schedule that.
And I'd be happy to meet with you, Mr. Talbot.
Thank you. So now we get to have a report on the Antelope Valley Transit Authority. And
No.
Where do you start?
Well, I think that there's certainly I think that that we ought to just lay it all out there as to what was discovered, what the process is, where we are in the proceedings. If for no other reason than to clarify the misconceptions that arose in the city to the south.
I acquiesce to you. Go ahead.
Well, can I say one thing, Mayor Pierce? I know that my being on the board, when the information was coming to us, we could not just do nothing. And we took the leadership. And if anybody's delusional, it's Mayor Ledford in saying that something shouldn't have been done. We did not put these people on trial. We simply asked them to not to show up, and then we received 3 resignations. So that was obvious that there was a reason for us to show some leadership there. And so then I was away and on vacation and came back and have not actually sat on the board until I think it's the 21st. We'll have the next one. But I think we absolutely did the right thing. We went in the right direction, and like I said, Mayor Ledford's delusional if he thinks that nothing should have been done.
Well, the point that I think needs to be made is nothing was done, in regards to these 3 people, other than they were asked to stay home and so we could preserve the crime scene, because that's what it was. And within hours of that, they all 3 resigned. We then had a board meeting. The issue was, do we talk about it in public or do we talk about it in closed session? And every board member there voted to do it in open session for everybody to hear, including the 2 representatives from the city, from the South.
I want to make it clear that the city of Lancaster requested we be done in open session.
That's correct. And there was a lot of mumbling and grumbling about it, but when it came time to vote, they voted to do it in open session. All of this was brought to the attention of the board from the County of Los Angeles. This was not something the city of Lancaster uncovered. The County of Los Angeles uncovered it. So far to date, what we know is that bonuses were given without approval of the board, and after the board told them not to give any bonuses, that they paid themselves thousands and thousands of dollars. We know one of the individuals apparently went and had breast implants done after she got the bonus, and then charged AVTA for that time, for her recuperation time, as if she was at work. So essentially, the AVTA was paying for breast enlargements. The double billing of per diems and things of that nature, it was pretty conclusive that people were stealing money. And this doesn't account for the cash that was available and floating around that seemed to be unsupervised in a fashion that, any candy store would have had better cash control than what was going on at AVTA. And then there was an abuse of the credit cards that was shocking. I mean, $200 dinners. I mean, $200 a piece. I mean, how do you have a $200 dinner? You can do that with $100 bottles of wine. I mean that's the only way I know of doing it. And then there were the allegations just kept mounting and mounting and mounting. Now, is this unfortunate? Of course it is. Is it embarrassing? Of course it is embarrassing. But what is to be gained by keeping it a secret? I mean, I think that has to be brought out in the light of day so that other agencies know that when we get a hint of this, we are going to investigate. And I'm not going to wait for the DA to prosecute and get a conviction before I put this evidence out in the light of day. And if that people find that uncomfortable, be uncomfortable. I mean, that's what accountability is all about. Accountability usually stings. But at the end of the day, by keeping it secret, I think these problems get far worse than they need to be. So did I cover it?
You covered it.
Okay. Now what's taking place is there's an interim director that we hired, and there's an investigator, and we've instructed her to investigate 6 years back and turn all of this over to the district attorney's office. And I understand that some of it has already been turned over to the district attorney's office. But there was definitely some dissension on the board about getting this evidence to the sheriff's department. Like, one of the things I wanted was the cell phones and the laptop computers seized and turned over to the sheriff's department. The mayor from Palmdale wanted somebody else, did not want the Lancaster Sheriff's Department taking custody of them. I don't know if he wanted the Palmdale station or someone else to take it, but he didn't want the Lancaster station taking it. The reason the Lancaster station was required to take it is it was in their jurisdiction. The felonies were committed, and there was no other place
to have these seized from. But there's always a reason for this, and I understand that these people came from the city from the south. They were employees of Palmdale. They were hired and recommended by the mayor from Palmdale, and so I understand the embarrassment that when these people were caught in the act, so to speak. But that doesn't mean you cover it up. I mean, you expose it. You bring it out in the light of day. You try to figure out how to do it better next time. So that's the long and the short of it.
We are trying to recover any money that was lost for any reason.
I don't think we're going to know how much money was lost. Okay, we have a CR item number 3.
There's nothing really relevant on the RAB reports.
Mr. Mayor, could we just take maybe a quick 5-minute recess? Is that possible before we do the budget close? Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, we're in recess. Okay, we're back. Okay, David Aber. Up. Nancy Acosta.
Is this how I use this?
Yeah, just pull it down a little bit.
Pull it down like that?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's good.
My name's Nancy Acosta. Obviously, I'm white. I'm a homeowner on the west side. I'm retired. I'm a widow. I worked most of my life. I'm a member at Lancaster Baptist Church. And when I was in my 20s and 30s, I was on Section 8 for 7 years. And the reason I wound up on Section 8 is because my husband was a disabled veteran with a lot of problems. He became violent, and I threw him out. And in half an hour, I went from 2 paychecks to nothing. I threw out his paycheck. I threw out mine, too, because he was the babysitter. So I had to be retrained for a new line of work. So I went down to the welfare department, signed up for everything I could get my hands on. And I loved sending my daughter to school because that was free babysitting while I went to job training and while I worked. It was free food because my budget was extremely tight. And she actually learned a few things. Her elementary school and her middle school were excellent. They were on the same level as the parochial school down the street. And the reason I know that is because I was friends with another single mother whose daughter went to the parochial school, and we swapped off babysitting. So her high school, on the other hand, was the armpit of the high school universe. 3 or 4 cities bused their children into that one high school. It was more like a jail. And bullying in that school was like getting your head pounded on the concrete and having a concussion unless you learned to fight back and win. And I wanted my daughter to learn something more educational than that. So by then, my ex-husband and I had been divorced for 8 years, and we had both matured, and we were able to live in the same house without killing each other. So we circled the wagons around our daughter and rescued her. And we moved her out here to Lancaster. We got remarried, and we put her in Courts Hill High School, and she's doing wonderfully now. She graduated on time. I was so happy when I saw that school. There's nothing but cows and horses out there. I could have kissed the ground. And my favorite security guard was the 300-pounder who sat on kids so they wouldn't leave the campus. I loved that security guard. My daughter hated her.
Can I get his name? I might need to take him to the gym with me, okay?
I don't remember. So anyway, I'm not the only one like me. I had 2 friends in my half a block because I didn't have a car. I had to walk or take the bus. So I only know 2 people in half a block on my side of the street. Debbie became a nurse, got herself off of welfare. Lydia she thought the welfare department was crazy. She went to work for the county. So, And you don't hear about people like us because we're too busy working to make a lot of noise.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bob Trentham?
Bob left.
Gone? Okay. Maria Gutierrez?
Well, I guess I have 3 minutes to try to convince you that the shelter should not be in Patricia Welch's hands.
I'm sorry, say that again?
I'm going to try to convince you in 3 minutes that Patricia Welch should not be in charge of the shelter.
Before you start, there's not a lot we can do about that because it's a
present
county.
some laws she's breaking.
Okay.
They do not the proper health and safety requirements are not met. TB shots are not a priority year-round / winter shelter. Bed bugs affecting residents. Aiding to homelessness by throwing out people without law enforcement. Disabilities discriminated. Equal rights through HUD housing. LASA is Los Angeles Shelter Housing Authority, not given people with disabilities / handicaps, not gave residency. Veterans with disabilities not accepted. Misuse of shelter funds. Private thrift store sells newer donations. Donated foods taken home by staff, example, the turkeys like for Thanksgiving. Transportation funds not used for daily pickups, example, 3:30 pickups from Mental Health America to shelter, never done. Proper licensing not met. Like, let's say for the food that they maintain, their proper food licensing, they don't have a license at all. Proper security guard, they are not licensed at all, they have no guard cards. Proper social work certificate for the social worker and proper medical staff not hired. These are facts I'm just going to read out. Fire masters recently did investigation on sorry about that, on fire hazards, and drugs may not be sold in a facility. Those are just facts. Ex-cons may not work in a facility, but they are working in it. They're the staff.
Okay.
They're the staff.
Hold on a second.
Yes.
I would like code enforcement to look into this. I'd also like Lita Rico or someone from the Sheriff's Department to meet with her, and I want to investigate it. Okay? Somebody, Jason or someone will talk to you when the meeting's over, and we will look into this, okay?
Please do, because in here maybe the society, homeless society, that's them. Maybe we would go somewhere and people wouldn't think we don't want anything. We want to get back on our feet.
No, I totally get that.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Robert Benitez?
Hello. Good evening, Mayor and City Council.
Good evening.
My name is Robert Benitez, and on November 6th, an art show opened on the boulevard called Queer, to a reception of over 100 people. During the course of this show, we had well over 300 people visit. It was a fantastic experience for all the artists involved, and it drew much positive response from residents. I have a letter to the editor here. It's called Cheers for Gallery, Booze for Bigots. It says, in appreciation and support of the Lost Gallery, bravo and many sincere thanks to the intrepid artists and their champions for the recent queer and AIDS quilt exhibits. As a resident artist of Lancaster, I was greatly moved and pleasantly surprised by these two excellent exhibits that are the norm in San Francisco and other parts of the world. I was, however, disappointed that these two exhibits were the target of intolerance by some bigoted people here who feel they have the right to discriminate against people who are not exactly like them. I would like to thank the City Council for bringing the Artist Lofts to Lancaster in an effort to develop the arts in this community, and for the opportunity for me, along with other queer youth and allies, to put this show on. Thank you.
Thank you. David Aber.
Good evening. Please join me. I would like to take a minute here to say thank you to all the men and women in the and their family, friends, and loved ones of the armed forces for their sacrifice and support in protecting the freedom, life, liberty, and justice for all of us that they protect. On my wish list is hope that our leaders will make the sound choices that will ensure protection of all citizens' rights without discrimination of religion or ethnicity, to freely assemble at schools, city events, as well as other places, for our basic civil rights must be guaranteed. I was sitting at home and was watching this in between the Laker game and this meeting, and it occurred to me that the bantering between the cities go back and forth with the mayor of Palmdale saying this, that, and the other about the leaders of this city, and so forth and so on. I heard comments made by people in the council back there about bullying. I remember when they had the bullying here in the chambers a few months ago, which I support wholeheartedly, that we must be able to protect our children in schools, to attend freely without the fear of being bullied and attacked by the other kids. But it also occurred to me that, you know, you need to practice what you preach. In order to protect the children in the schools, well, we need to start protecting the citizens in the community against the same type of bullying that goes on. With my last 50 seconds, I'd like you to join me in a moment of silence for our fallen armed forces heroes, their families, the sacrifice they give us to protect our due process, our civil rights, and our freedom to walk the streets without being bullied. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're observing a moment of silence for our armed forces.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Teresa Malone. I blame Ronald Reagan. He closed all the mental hospitals. Yes, I'm sorry. Ms. Malone, go ahead.
One of the rights I defended in my honorable military career is the first line of the First Amendment. You know, Mr. Mayor, freedom of speech.
Yes.
You have the right to say you disagree with people, but you don't have the right to call us crazy.
Ms. Malone, I wasn't calling you crazy. I was calling the guy who's been stalking me for 6 months
No,
crazy.
sir,
okay?
I'm not talking about the man to the south.
All right.
I'm talking about people who don't like the new boulevard.
You don't like the boulevard?
I intend to boycott it to the rest of my
Teresa, how can you not like the boulevard?
Because you're screwing up the environment with all those bloody trees. And yes, in England, that's a really bad word.
What's wrong with the trees?
They are changing the climate. Did you not notice how humid it was all summer? Did you not notice it the year before because of all the trees? And everybody who's thinking about the weather, that's not climate, and I'm not going to give you a lesson on it. You want to know the difference? Look it up. But use a dictionary, not the internet.
Don't bring up cutting down the trees. Teresa, I'm sorry if you don't like the boulevard. We're just going to have to agree to disagree on that.
And that is the way you should have put it, sir.
Okay.
I have fibromyalgia. For the first 3 years, doctors said the pain was in my head, and it's not. I had migraines. Every muscle in my body hurt. Do you know you don't have muscles on the top of your head? I know that because that's the only place that doesn't hurt.
I know what fibromyalgia is, and I know how horrible that is. And if I offended you, I'm sorry. Sometimes I say stupid things in an effort to be funny. And if that hurts you in any way, I sincerely apologize, okay?
You have the right to disagree with me.
Okay.
You don't have the right to call anybody crazy. It's hurtful to the bottom of the soul.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I said that. But other than the trees, don't you like the boulevard a little bit?
I can't afford the boulevard.
Okay.
Nobody on a limited income can. And the doctor won't let me eat half the crap they sell.
Well, you shouldn't eat half that crap they sell. Well, it's true, you shouldn't. Okay, Ms. Gonzalez. Ms. Gonzalez? Come on up.
Yeah, my name is Ms. Gonzalez, and I came to Lancaster from the Lakes area because I became more limited, and I was interested in buying because I got a little bit of a trust that someone was going to help me with, and I've kind of washed my hands because I've gotten a call back from Palmdale and tried to get some help in it. I was originally a renter in a place that a couple people here are familiar with, and it's now bank-owned property. It's been foreclosed on by Deutschland, so they're one of the derivative banks. It's like you're landing in the worst possible place. I did a habitability thing with code enforcement, and so in addition to having to pay for an attorney, not being able to buy the place, for the same cash green money that investors have, they're only accepting investors' bids, which is just not in the interest of the people that work here in the valley or, you know, in slummy areas to make them better. You really want them to be owner-occupied.
Absolutely.
And I think it would be good if you put together a task force on that to look into it, and particularly the people, and also for people that are being evicted. There's about 18 habitability issues, I mean serious, in the place that I'm expected to live in, fix, pay the attorney's fees, pay the witness fees for code enforcement to come out because you guys won't honor the request for public records, even though I'm the person that filled it out. And this isn't about a little individual person. This is about the bank. Why would you not? Because they're going to sell it to another investor who's not going to fix it, who code enforcement isn't going to hold responsible, and another poor schlubby tenant like myself is going to move in, and it's horrible. And, you know, that lady was talking about Section 8. That's not available anymore for disabled people. You know, in case I became bad with MS, I put myself on the waiting list. It's been 9 years.
You know, you need to put your name back on it because they purged the list.
Well, I don't want to live in Arbor Courts. I want to have my own place. And why wouldn't the city help me do that, or at least work with code enforcement so I don't have to pay a witness fee? And so you do tricky things like you attorneys know what to do to, you know, you send a certified letter to Deutschland Bank so they can't say, well, we didn't get it. You know, we don't know. They didn't send it to the right person.
I'm unclear of how I can help you. What can you tell me specifically what I can do?
Code enforcement.
Okay.
You're talking about code enforcement at sprinklers. What are you going to do if a big new residential apartment building doesn't put in sprinklers?
Well, I don't think that's going to happen, but.
Okay, let's say they don't.
But what I'm asking you is what can.
If there's a habitability issue someplace,
Okay,
where's your
all right,
attorney going to be dealing with it?
Let me be clear. There's a concern of where you're living now. There's a habitability issue.
And code enforcement wrote it up.
Okay.
And that's all they do with it. They just take it and throw it in the trash. That's the end of that.
Mr. Bozigian, will you look into this and follow up on it? And first of all, let's verify that what the problem is, and then let's proceed with the enforcement of it, okay?
But they're saying that for confidentiality reasons, they won't, except for by subpoena, which I then have to pay the city people as witnesses. And aren't we all on the same page here, that we want places to look nice and be habitable?
That's a separate issue, but certainly we are required to charge for witness fees.
But a lot of
You know,
other cities that are a little more solution-oriented, shall we say, allow a request for public records if you're one of the parties involved.
That's a different issue. If you're just looking for public records, Mr. Buzigan will work with you on that.
I've spoken to Ms. Gonzalez, and
They cannot give them.
and we would be happy to work with her starting tomorrow.
Okay, so tomorrow, can you and I talk about this and see how we reached a resolution?
But if you would also maybe think about, there's a lot of people out here with the same amount of cash money that would maybe be interested in being owners and buying.
You have a very good point.
And I'll tell you how we lost out. We told Deutschland on one of the offers, on one of the bids, a trust made a bid, and they said, we're not using your funny little escrow and title company. We'd like to use a local company that we trust, and, there's more money in the community. You know what? They refused the bid even though we were going to pay for the title and escrow. So there's something bad going on here.
We're seeing that in much bigger, broader levels. There's only
so maybe get Antonovich to partner with a nonprofit to look into. In other words, they're supposed to, by certain laws, if they say they're going to auction, it's supposed to go to auction. If Mayor Paris offers $25,000, Ms. Gonzalez offers $25,000, and Joe Schmo Investor offers $25,000, all three of us are supposed to have the same opportunity to get the property. It's not happening now. That's not a good thing. In other words, there's a couple bids that we made that sold for less, according to the assessor, because there's some back deals going on here.
Mr. Buzigan, schedule a meeting and follow up with me on where we're at with all of this, okay? There's about 5 issues here.
Yeah, we will.
We've got to look at, okay? Thank
Because
you.
I really appreciate it. I'm also disabled and limited income, and I'm paying all the attorney's fees. There's no nonprofits. It's crazy.
Okay, we'll see if we can
Thank
help
you.
you, okay? Thank you. Andrew Nito, are you on this one? Okay.
I did not know this thing was flexible.
We're very flexible.
Well, I just first like to make public my appreciation for the planning department. The signals that I mentioned at the last city council meeting are considerably improved. And I'd also like to offer my appreciation for the Boulevard Christmas event. I don't know if it was my suggestions in particular, but many of the suggestions that I offered at the last city council meeting were, in fact, in place on the boulevard. I noticed that human traffic was much more smooth to flow, and there was a lot more use of the side streets. I do have a concern about ordinances concerning private property. I had a conversation with a friend of mine recently. At some point in the future, I may provide some source documents. I apologize that I don't have them on my person at this time. In which I came to the understanding that, for the most part, code enforcement on private property is done by complaint. Somebody calls, complains about a code violation, and that is followed up on. Well, I have a friend who I believe has a vindictive neighbor, and he's getting called on pretty much everything.
I'm sorry, has a what?
Vindictive neighbor.
Okay.
And he's been called on many different, he has the tickets to prove it. That's the source documents that I was referring to. And I'm not necessarily speaking on behalf of him in particular, but that conversation brought to my attention the possibility that maybe there might be too many ordinances in regards to private property. The reason I think this is because they are all of relatively small consequence, and they're actually quite commonly violated. Some specific examples. A car cannot have one wheel on the dirt. It has to be on the driveway for long-term parking. Another example is you cannot have your waste management barrels in your front yard.
Well, that's a pretty good idea, don't you think?
It sounds nice, but it's so commonly done.
Well, yeah, but it shouldn't be. Now, I'm the guy who used to leave them out in the street, and my wife would go crazy over it. You know, she said very unkind words to say about me about that. But she's right. I shouldn't leave them out in the street, and you shouldn't leave them out in the front of your house.
And then another example is apparently you can't have holiday lights up outside of the month of December.
No, we require Christmas tree lights.
That pretty well precludes the recent popular trend of Halloween lights. The reason I bring this up in my last 10 seconds is not to bring attention to any one particular ordinance, but I'm a stickler for the Constitution. The Fourth Amendment says that we have the right to be secure in our property. At what point are there so many private property regulations of a small nature that we no longer really have control over our own property? It just seems to me that there's too many of these small ordinances.
You know, it's certainly something that people debate and discuss without resolution. You know, I'm not saying you're wrong. But
I wish I had my source documentation on me. That would have made for a more compelling argument.
What about graffiti? Should we allow graffiti to go anywhere it wants, or anywhere it lands? You know, there's such a thing as the well-being of your neighborhood, of your neighbors, and we try to strike a balance. Now, the problem with striking a balance is it's always going to be out of balance with some people. But if you allow neighborhoods to deteriorate, and if you allow trash to accumulate out in front of their house, you know, I mean, it affects everyone. It doesn't just affect the homeowner. So yeah, it's a problem. But I certainly understand what your concern is. At the same time, I also am beginning to learn more and more every day about what it takes to make a safe city where people's well-being is part of the consideration. So I don't have a resolution for you.
At some future point, I'll go ahead and provide you this source documentation, perhaps even including some photographs. It might actually better explain exactly what I'm thinking.
Perhaps you should apply for a commission, because, you know, I like to have divergent voices on it. And you would certainly be a divergent voice.
Divergent, but always rational.
And that's more than what some people say about me, isn't it?
Thank you.
Georgia Young.
Good evening to the council. Before I begin to speak, I want to make sure that I didn't miss something. Have you passed or announced the medical marijuana ordinance?
You know, I don't know where that is now. It's such a
Okay, I know there was a moratorium due to Prop 19.
Okay.
I know there was a moratorium.
Any collectives are illegal in the city of Lancaster under a land use.
Okay, because the city's not passing the ordinance, and they're not complying with the county or the state law. So I'm here to announce my intention to file a federal, state, county, city tort act. Name each and every one of you. Sorry. That's the way
You should go talk to Mr. Ledford. He has some experience in that.
That's okay. I don't need to speak to anybody. I know exactly where I'm going to go. My statute and my patience on the issue are running out. I have a medical OSC, so my statute's running out when the doctor releases me next month. And therefore, once I start filing things in triplicate, I'm going all the way. I'm going to do what I say what I mean, and mean what I say. I expect my city to do likewise. I will specifically, at the risk of committing an ad hominem here, take special delightment in naming you, Ms. Marquez, for your remarks at the last meeting in regards to this issue. Your empathy towards people just flat out astounds me. Now, that being said, I happen to have the quotes on me. This is just sheer coincidental in regard to some of your bullying and your low income for disabled people, and I just happen to have some quotes you may be interested in here. I happen to have them on me. You may want to look at the Public Health and Safety Code 3700, which will deal with low-income housing for disabled and elderly, and will help you with your community redevelopment with federal grants. So that would apply to every county, all 58 counties in the state of California. In regards to your school and the bullying, under Public Health and Safety Code 33680, Section A, actually there's several sections here, A, B, and C, that deal with the safety of education and has to do with the housing for low income and the safety thereof for people. Also, I can call your attention to Health and Safety Code 1500, which is the care for services for disabled, providing more low-income housing for people in this region. It will also aid you in opening another shelter. As the other women say, that shelter is absolutely horrific and is a danger to health and safety. And you can get all the children off the street under the age of 18, like all the prostitutes in Hollywood and everything, under Section 1502.3B. This is shelter for people under the age of 18, and that will provide all the shelter and all the money the county needs. It's all state and federally funded. So I'm going to call your attention to those codes, and I'd be happy to provide the city with the copies if they wish.
Thank you. James Jeffries? James Jeffries?
Good evening. Mr. Mayor, City Council staff, my name is James Jeffries. I'm here on behalf of Victoria Zavala. She's very ill. She wanted to be here. She couldn't be here. So what she's done is she's asked me to read this letter to you, and well, here it is. Happy holidays to you and your family from all of us here at Alternative Healing Collective and Wellness Center. I apologize for not being able to say this in person, but I must have had too much fun at the Christmas on the Boulevard this last weekend. 2010 has proved to be another challenging year in the cannabis movement, with new laws and regulations and still continued efforts to provide safe access within the Antelope Valley. We are thankful for all our collective member contributions, donations, and volunteered time. As we may face some new challenges in 2011 and maybe still overcoming 2010, it's important to be involved and stay focused on our community. As a patient advocate and also having a vested interest in our community, we are honored to have participated in our local events. We would like to thank you because we would not be able to provide safe and reliable access without your continued support. At Alternative Healing, we are dedicated, compassionate, and understanding to the needs of our member services. We will continue to focus on research and education, which will help us which will help us have a better understanding of cannabis and its medicinal benefits. By creating and establishing and maintaining a transparent system for safe access within the Antelope Valley, we can keep up a level of integrity that will set a standard within the valley. Also, please keep up with our events and our workshops and incentive specials through our website at alternativehealingcollective.com. Again, we would like to thank you for your continued support and wish you a happy, healthy new year, because the natural way to relieve pain is through alternative healing. That's what she wanted me to say to you guys. So you guys have a very happy, healthy holiday. Best to you and your families.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Take care.
Robert Long.
Hi, if you could bear with me, for I do have a tendency to stutter when I speak. I just want to say good evening to you, Mr. Mayor, the council. And I'm just here simply to voice a concern that I have. First of all, I do agree with everything you guys are doing concerning Antelope Valley Chevrolet and this lawsuit that Palmdale has against you. I agree that the City of Lancaster does need to stand its ground. And we do need to stand up to Palmdale, and we need to tell Mayor Ledford that we are not going to be bullied. We have our rights to have any business move to our town that we want to, and just because Palmdale seems to want to hoard all the business and have us, I guess, be the primary residential community to provide them with workers, I don't know. But I've always noticed that more businesses end up in Palmdale. We need more business in Lancaster. My only major concern is, though, with Lancaster and Palmdale constantly bumping heads, wouldn't that hurt the citizens of the Antelope Valley overall?
Without question. Without question.
And I think that the quality of life in the Antelope Valley could improve if Lancaster and Palmdale as cities, and we all could come together, and the two councils could work together to improve the quality of life in the Antelope Valley, and also to continue to work with the town councils of Lake Los Angeles, Quartz Hill, Antelope Acres, Little Rock, Pear Blossom, and all the other towns that are out here. If we could just somehow have a united front and work together like a community, we could make the Antelope Valley as a whole a better place. I was thinking, although I understand the city of Lancaster does need to stand its ground, and one thing I would like to see is after this lawsuit is over with, and after the city of Palmdale learns that they can't mess with us, I would like to know if you have anything in mind concerning a reconciliation with the city of Palmdale, and that maybe we can foster a better relationship between the two cities.
You know, I want to be clear. We do not have any antipathy towards the citizens of Palmdale. You know,
I figured as much.
We open all of our facilities to them. We welcome them. We want to be good neighbors with them.
Yeah.
That has not always been extended the other way. You know, in fact, there was a council meeting not too long ago where they were objecting to our people, meaning citizens of Lancaster, playing, I think it was bridge, wasn't it, at the senior center. Seriously. I think that there are a couple people on the city council that we have a lot of difficulty with, and I don't know what the resolution is. You know, I wish I was better at you know, I sometimes am more aggressive than perhaps is in the best interest of everybody. I'm kind of an aggressive guy that way, you know. But I've run out of solutions. You know, and I was hoping that Mr. Christ was going to be able to be the bridge because he had a lot of contacts, you know, but I think you ran into the same roadblock I did.
Let it be clear that when I did run, I offered a handshake across the city lines, and the mayor decided that it was not good for his city to do that. So we've tried. We've asked them to do tax sharing agreements, to look into it, so we would quit fighting about our sales tax, because that is the lifeblood of the cities. When you won't discuss it with an individual, or an individual won't discuss it, then you have a problem. I know that different people from this council has reached across the city lines, and they've all been rejected. So I think the leadership needs to change in Palmdale, and we're more than open to meet with the current leadership if he would want to.
Maybe it would be best if me and the mayor of Palmdale stepped out of it and let the remaining council members see if they could work it out. You know, oftentimes when you have combatants, you know, it's best just to remove the combatants from the negotiation. Perhaps that's a solution. I don't know what the solution is, but I do know that it is not in the best interests of anyone. Yeah. You know, it's a common tactic of some people to paint somebody as the aggressor, and then that's your reason for staying in power. You know, and that's been effectively done for a good number of years. There's nothing over there that I want. There's nothing over there that the city wants. I wish we didn't have to spend so much of our money to private businesses because we're trying to keep them out of each other's city. I wish I didn't have to put the Walmart where I put it because I was concerned about holding on to the sales tax revenue. You know, there's a lot of decisions that a sales tax sharing agreement that, I mean, it's not hard to come up with an equitable agreement. I mean, you know, there's mediators that help you do that. There's a lot of available solutions, but if they'd rather fight, okay, I'm good with that. You know, I wish I didn't have to. But I can tell you that if you start from 25 years ago and go up to today's date, it is in the tens of millions, if not 100 million, that have been wasted. all of which, every problem that I can think of that we have to deal with because of undercapitalization would not exist. Just simply would not exist. The money was just thrown down a rat hole, and it continues to be thrown down a rat hole. I mean, I don't like giving dealerships $600,000. I don't like giving them $1 million here and $1 million there so I can hold on to the sales tax. I don't like it. It's a waste of money. But if you have two cities competing for that sales tax, you have no choice. So I don't know what. I mean, I think Marvin, when he came on, actually thought he was going to resolve the problem. That they would enter into some type of sales tax agreement so we could quit throwing money away. What was it? 2 days after the election, you were getting slammed in the paper. You know. So it is what it is, and until an election cycle, either here or there, resolves it.
I guess that's capitalism, right?
I don't think it's capitalism. I think it's a level of immaturity that is intolerable.
And I think the citizens, the entire citizens of the Antelope Valley are tired of it. But just be clear, it's not us. It's not what we're here to do. We've reached across the lines. We want to work with the city of Palmdale. We want to do everything possible that we can to make it good for the entire Antelope Valley. We want the citizens to be able to, we want our people to be able to go to the Antelope Valley Mall. We want those people to be able to come to the Boulevard.
You know, 71% of the Dillard's revenue came from Lancaster. You know, it's this idea that we are not dependent on each other is absurd, absolutely absurd. That mall exists because of Lancaster. And believe me, I don't want a mall. I have no intention of ever seeing a mall in Lancaster. I think they have come and gone. We could do a much better level of cooperation.
I totally agree, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you. Kenya, Jenna, now you're up.
I'm a parent. I've lived here for 20 years. I'm alumni of Palmdale High School, Antelope Valley College. I've even attended the satellite at University of Phoenix. I'm now a nurse. I'm concerned. I'm a schizophrenic. I have a 1-year-old child that is in foster care. She's actually living with her grandmother. But because it is more important for them to make apparent that within this case, the judge asked a court-appointed doctor to tell me that I had schizophrenia because I was unaware. I was living my life with bad credit reports and moving every year. You know, I've moved like 10 times in 10 years. I've had 10 jobs in 10 years, unaware that I was schizophrenia. This doctor told me that I had a grossly intact memory, that I would have, there would be no amount of time that I myself would be able to research schizophrenia, to locate these devices, to turn them off. It's more important for them to have fun with me the way I'm intellectual, I'm smart. I have a fiance. I would love to spend more time with him, but because laws that were signed in 2009, July 28th, Obama signed an act to assist disabled persons to have a clean home. I'm not trying to take advantage of that, making scenarios more important than my family. I want my child home. It's important for her to have her mother healthy. I participate in city planning here. You know, I love this stuff, civic duties. I've done graffiti cleanup. I've never owned a home. I've had more jobs that would allow me to have the finances to do it. but instead I have to find a wall to put paint up on the wall because that's something I enjoy. Activities. I love to sew, and I think it's important for me to have patience and peace of mind. I'm a Christian woman. I'm a regular attendant of Lancaster Baptist Church, which will assist me in baptizing my child if I'm not married by the time she comes home and my home is quiet and free from such an illness where it is so bad that I can't care for my child, and it's more apparent that I pay more attention to scenarios. Please stop this grossly intact memory from being aired on FM radios and airwaves and cell phones, and it's just embarrassing. It's embarrassing to myself, my family, my community.
Thank you. Kelvin, you want to meet with her afterwards and see if we can help her with something? Okay?
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you, Kenya. Robert Long?
Oh, I already spoke.
Oh, sorry. David Paul. I love that look. You look great, David.
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council, Merry Christmas. Thank you, sir. I appreciate your support on my beard. I've been getting a little grief. I just like to grow this, and I'm opposed. I told my 10-year-old boy the other night, because there was a striking resemblance between my father and myself, and I told him, someday when you're my age, you're going to look just like me. And he said, darn. The other night, my wife, before we were going to go to the Christmas on the Boulevard, she leaned in. She, this is how she proves she's smarter than me, because she always catches me off guard. And she leaned in snugly and she whispered to me, "Be careful tomorrow. They might mistake you for Santa Claus." So, I'm getting knocked around a little bit at home, but I still got the stuff. I think I'm rocking that most interesting man alive, the Dos Equis guy who comes out of the hole, the ice fishing, that's where I think I'm at. And I think that, your image is important. Now, with our problem with Palmdale, before I knew you, Mayor, in 2006, when I ran for mayor, I went there, I sat through the council, and at the end I introduced myself, and I invited Jim Ledford to box me when I was elected, because that's what we needed. We need to get this out of the way, and a couple of guys just smacking the crap out of each other, that'll usually fix a lot of things. Now, if you don't want to do that individually, Mayor, Ms. Marcus, it's beneath you because you're a lady. I'll step in for you. They can appoint Joseph Yore, and we'll have a 5-man Royal Rumble. Now, we could sell some tickets to that, I'll tell you what. Mr. Mayor, speaking of the Christmas cards, I liked that Warford column the other night, Sunday, I believe it was, where he had your...
I put it on Facebook. I loved it.
Yeah, that was excellent. And it reminded me of the first time we met. And
David, I thought I've always known you.
Pardon me, sir?
I just thought I've always known you.
Absolutely, absolutely. But that was a fun night because I was standing there listening to you, and I was actually speechless. I didn't know what to say. But I knew 3 things. I knew that you were something special, that I wanted to make you my friend, and you couldn't possibly be as big of a jerk as you sounded like. And
now he knows he was wrong.
But, it's a festive time, and I appreciate everything you do. This is a serious job, and there are many, many problems that I see you take very seriously. You're a personality. I heard people talking about you on the train the other day as I'm coming back. You're a corporation and you're a brand, but really what you are now, sir, is a transformative mayor. You have taken this city and done the things that others should have done long before you came, and I appreciate that. Merry Christmas.
Thank you, David. Merry Christmas to you. City Manager.
Yes, before we hear a brief report from staff on the Magical Boulevard Christmas event, Three announcements just for the public and for council. We have three really good press conferences scheduled for this week. Tomorrow, we're going to unveil Pianos on the Boulevard, which is an exciting event. On Thursday, we are going to talk about the solarization of the stadium, baseball stadium, and then we have the Chevy grand opening on Friday. So we hope the public will be able to join us. I'm going to ask Bob and his staff to briefly talk about the Magical Boulevard Christmas, but a couple things I'd like to say. One, it was just a great event. I had so much fun at it, but it really takes all the departments in the city volunteering. We have a lot of people volunteering to do this on their weekends. And they make it look easy, but it's really not easy. And one of the hallmarks of doing a great event is to make it look easy. It takes a lot of planning, a lot of time, et cetera. But I just really appreciate it, and it's such a blessing working with a staff that's able to make it look easy, and you don't have to worry about the details because they've already worried about it for you. So, Bob?
Thank you, City Manager and Mayor and Council. We're going to invite Mike Rosa up to speak a little bit about the event. He was a chairperson for this last event we did on the Boulevard. But just a couple of quick things, and kind of touching on what Mark had talked about. It probably is a little bit of a surprise to some people that we switch gears. We have regular activities we do during the week, running softball leagues, performing arts centers, and so forth. And just so you know, on the same day that we did this event, where we had over 20,000 people, we also had a soccer tournament take place at the National Soccer Center. We had a softball tournament taking place at the Big 8. We had youth basketball leagues. We had performances at the Performing Arts Center with Nutcracker, the Vice Mayor participated in. We also had rentals that took place at facilities. And finally, we had maintenance people opening parks. Well, all of those people shift gears as they finish an event. And also, I shouldn't fail to mention, we had Breakfast with Santa at City Park. And so all of those things take a lot of staff, a lot of time, but they shifted gears, and we went through a long day, but a very rewarding day. And we really do appreciate what's happened, that we've been empowered by staff, by council, to do these events on the Boulevard. It's changed Lancaster. It really has. And it's fun to be part of that. And without any further comment, I'll invite Mike up, who can speak about that. He's our senior operations manager in the department.
Mike, you did a tremendous job.
Thank you.
I can't tell you how enjoyable that evening was.
Well, it was a team effort from everyone. I was going to talk about that. Mark also did, and Bob also. But I'd like to thank the mayor and council first for giving us in Parks and the city the opportunity and the latitude to program the Boulevard, partially as we see fit. Obviously, you guys suggest and have input to the events, but you give us a wide berth in programming the Boulevard, and we appreciate that. It began a few months ago, several months ago actually. We did a retreat in the Parks Department while the Boulevard was just being started to try to think of what holidays or what events we were thinking of maybe doing. And the last three events we've done there have been a direct result of the planning that we did as a department up in Vallermo for a whole day. That would be the Boulevard, the USO show, and this last Christmas event. I don't want to forget also about the Streets of Lancaster. That was its second year. That was headed by Economic Development, but it was also a team effort through the whole city for a three-day weekend. These four events now have, the total attendance has broke 100,000 people now on the Boulevard, and these took place in the last 3 months alone. We're looking forward to a little break now before the Poppy Festival in April, and I'm sure you guys will come up with some great ideas for us in the future.
I got a great idea. We could have a New Year's Eve party.
What year? Early 2011.
You thought he wasn't prepped for that, didn't you?
But again, it was a team effort. We've gone through all the departments, and particularly I remember Kelvin and Brenda coming down from admin around 11 o'clock a.m., and they worked for 8 hours out there setting up large Santas and tin soldiers and stuff all day long. So they particularly helped this finance and public works, and all the other departments, again, police and fire also obviously contribute their time. This year, business contribution was also critical. We had 23 businesses participate in the inaugural Holiday Cup decorating contest, and we have a cup that we presented to what we felt was the best holiday decorations of the business. Again, we had 23 of them. It was won by Giannini's Bistro and Grill. They won it. They got the award today around 3 o'clock. They get to keep the cup for 1 year, and then it will pass possibly to another business. They could win again, but all probability would probably be passed from business to business. They get their name engraved on it.
It's like the Shiva Trophy in the league, right?
Yeah, that's a Stanley
You guys
Cup.
don't watch the league, huh? Okay.
Stanley Cup hockey. But anyway, so that was good that we had the businesses. We also had our partnerships again come through for us. Sierra Toyota had hot cider being pressed all night long. The proceeds for that go to local veterans' wheelchairs. So that's good that that stays here and helps our local veterans. Stu Miller Trees provided about a dozen trees. Those were decorated by local businesses, and they were on the Romulus all during the night. And these trees are now in possession of many needy local citizens who were surprised that Christmas came early for them this year, so they now have those trees. The LA County Fire Department did their Spark of Love toy drive, and the citizens brought many gifts that are going, again, staying here in the Antelope Valley for needy citizens. So I know it's late, so I'll just really quickly summarize that this was designed to be a feel-good event for the local citizens to enjoy, and I think it put them in the Christmas spirit. So in that regard, it was a success, as have all these events on the boulevard the last several months, and we will continue to do these and hopefully continue with the string of successes that we've had. Thank you.
You guys have, I mean, you're just amazing. I mean, simply amazing. Now I know why you look so exhausted.
Do I really?
No, I mean, you know, at 8 o'clock at night, you guys had to have been running, what, 3-4 hours sleep? I mean,
sometimes, but, you know.
It's incredible what they did. If you miss that event, you miss something truly wonderful. It was, well, Mark and I were talking about it. It was our favorite night.
Good. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
You did a great job. Thanks. You. Anything else?
No, sir.
I'm sorry, that's it? Okay, great. I'm sorry, am I doing the National Children's Study? No.
The proclamation was given at the last meeting,
Yes.
but we were directed to put that on there for you to mention it again.
Okay, today's children are faced with a variety of chronic conditions stemming from complex interaction of environmental exposures and genetic factors. Many of these chronic conditions, such as asthma, autism, obesity, and neurodevelopment difficulties, are increasing in prevalence, burden, and cost both nationwide and locally. The National Children's Study will examine the effects of environmental influences on the health and development of more than 100,000 children across the country from before birth until age 21, making it the largest, most important study of children's health and development ever conducted in the United States. The data generated by the National Children's Study will form the scientific cornerstone for a children's health policy for generations to come. This city supports the National Children's Study and commends the exemplary research efforts of the National Children's Study Group for its leadership in furthering the common goal of making our city a healthier place to live and raise a family. More importantly, this study has focused on Lancaster, and as this data becomes available, it'll be available to our healthcare providers. There's some really fascinating things happening right now in the healthcare in the Antelope Valley. A lot of it's being spearheaded by High Desert Medical Group. One of the things they're doing is working on a predictive survey that will be done and should be done within the next year or two, where they'll be able to predict hospitalizations within the next year. This allows interventions. It's never been done before. They've offered a huge amount of money for whatever group puts this together, and there's an expectation that it's going to happen relatively quickly. We're becoming a leader in research in regards to chronic diseases. Unfortunately, it's not going to be enough. I mean, the reality is the obesity epidemic is overtaking us, and it's certainly overtaking us in the Antelope Valley. That's why we have the highest mortality rate in the county, all of it obesity related. So as the coming year, we will be working more and more with UCLA and with the National Children's Group in an effort to do something about this. However, we don't have a clue as to what to do. So but we aren't turning a blind eye to it or a deaf ear. Just so you know what's coming in the next year. I also will make a commitment that on New Year's Eve, a year from now, we will have the dropping of the ball on Lancaster Boulevard. I'm committing to it now. 2012 is the kickoff date, right, Mr. Bozigian?
Right.
Okay.
And if the economy approves, that's going to dictate how big the ball is.
And it'll be an alcohol-free event. No, probably not, but if it was up to me, it would be. Okay, thank you. Tonight we're adjourning in memory of the Lancaster Sheriff's Department explorer Matthew Ramsey, who was an Army Specialist 4 stationed in Afghanistan. On November 29, 2010, an Afghan border policeman killed 6 American servicemen during a training mission. The shooting occurred in a remote area near the Pakistani border and appeared to be the deadliest attack of its kind in at least 2 years. Specialist Ramsey was a former member of the Lancaster Station Explorer Post, having graduated from Explorer Class 7-9. He became, or 79, I guess, he became an integral part of the Explorer staff, assisting in the weekly operation of the Explorer Academy. He joined the United States Army on April 30th, 2008, eventually attaining the rank of Specialist 4, and was subsequently deployed to various assignments in the Middle East, including Afghanistan. It is tragic that we are still losing lives of our citizens there, especially young men who are as exemplary as Matthew was, and we are closing the meeting in honor of him. There will be no City Council Redevelopment Agency meeting on December 28th, 2010. The next meeting of the City Council Redevelopment Agency Financing Authority will take place on Tuesday, January 11, 2011 at 5 p.m. I'd like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and have a safe and Happy New Year. And Carol, I'm coming home. Thank you.